Hey, all, Bryan VantHof here with REMAX Advantage Plus, Ramsey Trusted, and the Minnesota Real Estate Team. As always, I hope you're having a great week and a good start to your month of August as we enter the final third of summer here before things turn to fall and kids back in school and everything else that happens with September. But hope you're having a great week. Just reaching out. If you're looking for strong brands, the three brands that I mentioned at the beginning of this video, REMAX, Ramsey Solutions, Minnesota Real Estate Team, all brands that you can't go wrong with. REMAX being the number one real estate brand in the world, Ramsey Trusted being one of the most respected financial coaching companies out there, and the Minnesota Real Estate Team as the number one real estate team in the state of Minnesota with over 200 agents. I've been the top real estate team in the state of Minnesota for 20 years, and also number one mid-sized employer is voted by the Star Tribune for the last 3 years. So if you're looking for reputation, if you're looking for somebody who's going to represent you, if you're looking for some oomph behind your marketing, whether you're a buyer or a seller, you certainly can't go wrong with any of the three groups, companies that I'm associated with. So if you're looking to buy or sell, please reach out at any time. Let's get into the weekly stats as we do every week with previously owned homes within that 50-mile radius of downtown Minneapolis in Minnesota. We saw 1,188 new listings over the past 7 days. That is up 79 from the prior week and 77 more than the first week of August last year. 232 of those new listings did sell in the first week. That is 11 fewer than the prior week, but 28 more than last year. Of our new listings, 852 were single-family homes. That's up 63 from the previous week. 230 were townhomes. That's up 15. 106 were condos. That's up 1. So overall, we did have more new listings at the market in the past 7 days than we had for that prior week. 301 coming soon listings. That is down 20 from last week and down 29 from the same time last year. Total available inventory rose just 16 from last week's figures to 5,937, and that is 676 more than the same time last year. So what we did see, as I mentioned, we just saw a net increase in inventory of 16. Even though we saw new listing increases of 79, we only saw a net increase of 16 homes this week, which indicates that demand outstripped new supply of available inventory. So everything is pretty consistent as far as that goes right now. Buyers are out there, sellers are selling for the most part. Things are a little bit slower from a seller perspective, but as you see from the numbers, they're not that slow. So that's what we have on that. Of our available inventory numbers compared to the prior year, we're converging on those. Our difference, last week we had over 800 more than we had at this time last year. This week we have under 700 more than we had at this time last year. So we are converging on our inventory numbers comparatively speaking. So if those things kind of balance out, we're not seeing that sharp increase in outstanding inventory, when at this time of year, I would actually start to expect we would see a kind of a little bit more of a rapid increase in the number of outstanding listings that are still available out there. So that's a little bit about that. While we saw 79 more listings hit the market over the past week, the available inventory again only rose 16. Of our available inventory, 3,758 of them are single-family homes. That's up 37 at a median price of $500,000. That's unchanged. 1,132 are townhomes. That is down 3 at a median price of $300,000. That's also unchanged. 1,047 are condos. That is down 18, median price of $210,000. That's up $2,000. 800 homes went from active to pending. That's down 14 from the prior week, and 926 homes went from pending to sold. That's up 192. August 1st kind of was treated as our last Friday of the month from last month, so that was the busiest closing day. August 1st was the busiest closing day of July. So that did cover that day, and that's why part of the reason why the pendings to solds are so much more increased over the previous week. Going on to mortgage rates actually dropped just slightly over the past 7 days by about 1/8%, maybe a little less, with a good mortgage broker being between 6.5% and 6.75% right now on a fixed 30-year mortgage. If you ever wonder what a 15-year mortgage looks like right now and the interest rate difference between them, 15-year mortgages are about 0.75% lower than a 30-year mortgage right now. So take that for what it's worth. For some of you, that might be a lot. For some of you, it'll be like 0.75%. I was hoping that I'd get 4% or 5% on a 15-year. That's not necessarily the case. So we are over 1/8% lower than we were on 1 and 3 months ago, 0.25% lower than 6 months ago, less than 1/8 lower than 9 months ago, but more than 0.25% higher than 1 year ago at this time. Going on to the showing activity part of things, realtors scheduled approximately 14,760 showing appointments over the past 7 days. That's nearly identical to where we were the prior week. So showing requests were very consistent over the past couple of weeks. Showings per home were identical to where they were at the same time last year. So we have like 3.13 showings per home over the past 7 days, and that was exactly the same as where we were at the same time last year. So as I've talked about before, I see a lot of similarities this year to where we were last year, whether it's interest rates, whether it's inventory, whether it's the number of buyers that are out there. But we are seeing certainly a lot of different, or a lot of similarities from week to week. Twin Cities housing demand, it just remains strong and consistent. I do think that buyers will soon start to see a bit of an upper hand as we enter more of the late August, early fall season. It's just typical how that happens at this time of year, where there are buyers out there taking advantage of increased inventories. But right now we're seeing just a little bit more of a balanced market. So and again, it's very, very, very steady. If you're a buyer, we really should be talking soon, because it is a great time of the year to be a buyer. If you're a seller and your home is under 500,000, it's still a good time to be a seller. If you're over 500,000, it tends to be the better idea to wait until next spring if you have the ability to or want to. But if you're under 500,000, it's still okay. It's still good to be a seller here if you're under that price point. So, but again, if you're a buyer, this is really the prime time to get out there and be prepared for when the time is right for you to make a purchase, facing less competition, more inventory, and all the things that kind of repeat on a weekly basis as far as that goes. So that's it on the stats for the week. I am going to talk a lot about mortgage here again for the last half of with this additional information for the week. A lot of stuff in here. Try to stay away from numbers on this and just kind of talk in general with a general overview of what's going on. Been a lot of talk over the past few weeks on the news about what the Fed's going to do, what the Fed's not going to do. There's a belief that what the Fed does will have a significant impact on housing affordability, which very likely is not the case. So I'm going to talk now in this additional information about what really does impact mortgage rates. What the Fed does with their rates has a very limited impact on what happens to mortgage rates in general. Kind of as an example, according to tradingeconomics.com, the Fed funds rate was at 5.5% at the end of August last year. They took 3 reductions last year and moved it down to 4.5%, and that's still where we sit today. So while the Fed rate went down 1% over that 3.5-month period at the end of the year last year, mortgage rates on 30-year mortgages actually went up about 0.5% in that same time. So they went in different directions. So that was what the Fed did there didn't necessarily have an impact on the mortgage rate. Mortgage rates did start to climb to where we are today, though, at roughly the same time as when the Fed started to increase the Fed funds rate from close to 0% in May of 2020 to our high of 5.5 in August last year and down to 4.5% today. So there is a correlation. It's not a one-for-one correlation, but there is a correlation between the Fed funds rate and what can happen in the mortgage market as far as mortgage rates go. But there's more to it. So what are some other factors that have an impact on mortgage rates? What happens in the stock and bond market is a big factor in mortgage rate. Investors have the option of investing in stocks or bonds or a combination thereof. So whenever somebody does an investment that's overweighted in one, generally that means the prices in the other ones go down. In the bond market, if you're familiar with it all, when prices of a bond go down, when there's less demand for bonds, that actually pushes the rates on those bonds up, because investors, in order for sellers to incentivize those buyers to buy their bonds, they have to offer them a higher interest rate to compensate them, where those investors would potentially put their money elsewhere to make what they believe would be a higher return. So what are bonds? Again, I talked a little bit about what they are. A mortgage is basically a bond. It is a bond that a homeowner takes out, borrows, and pays an interest rate on. So that's what a bond is. And that bond is generally sold on the open market to other investors. Your bank doesn't generally keep that mortgage. They do sell it out there. And so some of those times, what happens in that bond market, the demand for mortgage-backed bond securities, if the demand is down, that generally means that it is a little bit of a push up in interest rates when that happens. So if there's high demand, the prices go up and the rates go down. So if people are really in demand to buy a bond and those prices go up, those lenders, those people who are lending money, if there's high demand for those bonds, that generally means they don't have to charge as much on an interest rate in order to make a nice return on their investments. So if you know anything about bonds, there's an inverse relationship between price and interest rate. The higher the price of the bond, the lower their interest rate. The lower the price of the bond, the higher the interest rate. So that's maybe more than you wanted to know today on the bond market. But talking a little bit more about it, when there's a lot of confidence in the stock market, more investors are buying stocks than bonds. When there's less confidence in the stock market, typically investors are buying more bonds than stocks. When the stock market is strong and there's a high demand for stocks, bond sellers generally must incentivize buyers to buy their bonds, offer higher interest rates, which I kind of mentioned about before. That's part of the reason why we are today. It's another reason why mortgage rates are where they are today. The stock market has been great over the past 12 months. The S&P 500 is up, I think I saw yesterday, around 21% over the past year. So you got a lot of investors who are like, boy, I'm going to go jump into the stock market, push those bonds to the side, and those prices on those bonds tend to go down, again, pushing those rates up. So investors are looking towards the stock market for a higher return in general right now. Inflation, the prospect of inflation is also a major factor in mortgage rates. Inflation, as you may know, erodes the purchasing power of money. If things cost more, you need more dollars to buy the same item you purchased at a lower price previously. When there is a perception of higher inflation, lenders do tend to charge more in interest to protect their returns. They need to make more money on the money that they lend to offset basically the cost of money when there's an inflationary period. A buyer demand for mortgages and homes is another factor. Nationally, the housing market is consistent. I talked last week about areas of the country that are down, but then also areas of the country that are stable to up. Overall, I think the market is pretty stable. That's my opinion on where things are at on a national basis, even though the South and the West are certainly seeing some reductions in prices and certainly some slowing. But when there is still buyer demand out there for mortgages, that also keeps the rates up. Another factor that I don't think gets talked about enough is foreign investment in the United States. Starting in 2023, we did start to see less money coming into the United States from foreign investors. Mortgage rates had already started to increase in early 22, but foreign investments in the U.S. did significantly slow in 23 and 24. To me, that's another factor in why rates are as high as they are today, because some of those foreign investors were buying bonds. They were pushing the bond prices up and thereby lowering interest rates. So if there's less investors out there to buy those bonds, that pushes those interest rates up because there's less demand for those bonds. And again, lenders have to incentivize people to buy their bonds up by offering higher rates, which gets passed along to you as the consumer. So I personally feel like over the next year or 2 years that we're going to see a return of foreign investment back into the United States, or at least more money returned to the United States to reinvest into bonds. And that could have a very positive effect on the mortgage rates. But with that being said, that's just one of the factors that affects mortgage rates. So now you know more today than you did yesterday on the mortgage rate environment, how we get to where we are on mortgage rates. If you've got an uncle, brother, friend, anybody who's telling you that they have all the answers to what's really going to happen with mortgage rates, and that they can kind of tie some of these things together, all of these things together with some form of confidence. Again, it's not just the Fed that's going to lower mortgage rates. It's all of these other factors. If you have a friend, uncle, brother, dad, sister, mom who's telling you to wait because mortgage rates are going down, they don't know. There's no way to predict that. Loan officers can't predict that. They don't predict that. There's too many factors involved out there that impact mortgage rates. If you're waiting for mortgage rates to go down, you just don't know. You don't know if they're going to go down. They could go up. You just never know. So the government is not in control of mortgage rates. but they do have a large influence based on monetary policy, economic policy. If you look over the history back to 1971 on mortgage rates, historically rates are still below average. According to Freddie Mac, the average 30-year mortgage rate since 1971 is 7.71%. Today we sit closer to 6.5% or lower in some cases, depending on if you're FHA or VA. But we are still well below historical averages in our mortgage rates right now. Mortgage rates are unpredictable. They're just unpredictable due to these wide range of factors that can impact them. That's what I got for the week. If you're looking to buy or sell, let's do it now. If you're looking to buy specifically, if you're looking to reduce your housing uncertainty and lock in that place that you want to live in for the next 2 to 50 years, now is a great time. This is a great time. If you are financially ready to buy a house, you should. Get into the place that you want to lock in and reduce that uncertainty in your life. Get into that home that you know is yours, and then you can lock it in. So I'm here to be your real estate resource. Look forward to hearing from you. I appreciate your time. Look forward to hearing from you. And as always, thanks again for reviewing this weekly video/email. Reach out anytime by a phone call, text, email. And I hope you have a great weekend if I don't talk to you before then. Thank you.